Online for Authors. I'm chatting with Kevin M. Hall, author of Book Marketing on a Budget, about inexpensive marketing strategies. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, Terry. It's great to be here. And just point out the reason I use M, there's other authors out there that are Kevin Hall. So I have to
just so you know, Kevin, I use my M for the very same reason. There's actually another Terry Brown spelled my way. So I get it. I completely do. Before we dive in, I actually had the opportunity to go through and read this book. I found, even as someone who's been doing this for 4 years, there were a few things that I said, ooh, I didn't know that existed. And so I'm going to go and look up a few things once I have a little bit of time. But before we really dive in, can you give us a quick bio about yourself? Why you're the person to talk with us about marketing, what made you write the book, that kind of thing.
Sure. I started writing, first book published in 2022. And I did that basically because of my grandkids were always asking, Grandpa, what did you do as a kid? And so I decided, after telling them a lot of stories, to start putting that down. Well, soon I had the book. But that's only the beginning part of the journey.
Yeah.
Now I have to see if it'll sell, and just putting it out on Amazon with the millions of other titles that exist out there. How do you get people to recognize that that book exists? So I started on the journey of marketing, and having spent a lot of money getting the book ready, et cetera, to go, there wasn't a lot of funds left in the marketing category.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to have to do this on my own. And so I started to listen to a lot of podcasts, YouTube videos, joining different groups. You had Shane Vigian on Book Launchers, and I belong to their group. And listen in a lot on their webinars and stuff like that. And I picked up little tips and techniques, but a lot of what I was hearing and seeing, Terry, was folks that were doing this as part of their livelihood. So they wanted money for it. Master class. $67 for this video, but you get the recordings for life, etc. And I said, well, I understand all of that, but how can I do this? How do other new authors do it to get started, to make sales? I came out of the corporate world. I spent 40 plus years before retirement. And the last part of my career was dealing a lot with the marketing groups. And what I saw was a lot of them were getting out, making contacts. Some of it was cold calling. So I said, well, what can I take from all of that? How do I begin? And so I started doing baby steps. Yeah. And there was just something very simple. I'd send out probably 20 emails a day easily. How do I let people know that I'm an author? So I went and I edited my signature line, and I put on that I was an author, and I put in the name of the book. I did not have a website at that time, but at least started getting some inquiries coming in. And then I said, well, I'm on a lot of different social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn, Reddit. And how could I utilize those? So I started to do the same thing, just putting it out there that, look, I'm an author, here's the book. And then what I found out was there's groups out on these various social medias for different things. Now, my first book was about my hometown of Ilion, New York, and growing up there. And I started to find different groups on Facebook dedicated to Ilion, New York. So I started to put postings out there, and I started to see sales come in. And then I just kept repeating that process. And there's one thing that I'm still not as good at as I should be: consistency.
Right.
And that's extremely important. You need to be consistently in front of your audience, letting them know what you're doing, letting them know you're there. Bottom line is, after doing all these things and getting on podcasts, I've been on the radio, have not done TV yet, but hopefully in the future. I started to see more and more sales coming in. And now I've been tracking it. And as of this month, it's now 51 straight months of consistent sales. And all I've been doing is little baby steps. And each time I try to do it a little bit better and a little bit better. And Terry, over those 51 months, I have spent a little less than $200 on any formal advertising.
Right.
And part of that was I wanted to get on a podcast which had worldwide appeal, but they were charging $45. Normally, I don't recommend people paying for it, but I knew their audience. I knew the person. I listened to a lot of their podcasts, and I said, no, I'm going to pay it to get on that. I garnered thousands of views, and I got an increased bump in sales from that. But I've been doing a lot of other podcasts, other medias. I'm now also on Instagram. I've created my own website. Now, the $200 doesn't include the cost of the website.
Right.
That was something I had to take on by myself. But I am at a positive ROI, which is not something a lot of authors can say.
It's hard to get to. It is very hard to get to.
Yes.
Like you, Kevin, my first book came out in 22, and I sat kind of in front of my Amazon screen and waited to see sales come in. And when it didn't happen, it was like, oh, there's more to this writing than just writing the book. And I think a lot of authors, there's one in particular, I have an author that I know of who says, I wrote a good book and people will just come to it. Unfortunately, that isn't the way it works, because there are 4 million books coming out this year.
Yes.
And how do you get yours to be seen above all the noise that's out there, you know?
Exactly. And then, you know, when I was in corporate America, they would talk a lot. I read a ton of business books, and they would talk a lot about the multiplier of the CEO salary compared to the lowest price person in the organization's salary. And it could be anywhere from 300, 400 times what that lowest person was paid. In our industry, it goes into the 100,000, if not that, even 1,000,000 times what the highest authors paid compared to what the first author starting out.
Right. Absolutely. And I think it's really important for authors to understand that there's marketing that can be done. It doesn't have to cost you a lot of money.
Yes.
And that there's so much that you can do, even if you are not super savvy when it comes to marketing. The things that you talked about in your book don't require super knowledge in terms of, like, you know, how to technology, like, oh my gosh, they're very basic, basic things. And I liked that idea that it doesn't require you to, you know, get an MBA. You know, you just need to do little small steps.
Exactly. And that's why on the cover of the book, I have it right here, how well you can see it. There's stair steps.
Right.
Going up. And that's when I started writing the book, I thought about it. Yeah, you're just taking little steps at a time, seeing the results, a little bit more, seeing the results, and continue the growth, because there's so much, Terry, as you know, in this business to learn. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's not just the writing aspect, and there's a lot to learn about writing and the best way to write and the hooks to draw your readers in and how to format the books even.
Right.
That's important to know. The back cover blurbs, my first couple books, I didn't even know what I was doing on the back cover.
Right. Well, I mean, I think isn't that the way most of us, we don't know, and we're kind of learning as we go. I think the thing with marketing that I have found to be true is that you're playing the long game.
Yes.
It's not something that you're going to go do tomorrow afternoon for 18 hours. And when you're done, you don't have to do this anymore.
Right.
Marketing is a small, daily, consistent thing. You know, you
Yep.
need to do some, or at least I try to do something small every day toward my marketing. It
Yes.
may not be anything ginormous, but some little something every day, because the more you feed it, the more it does start running a little more on its own, where you don't have
Yes.
to have quite as much input. So
Yes.
coming to, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, then you can look at tools to help
Right.
you automate.
Right.
And there's a number of tools out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know in the back of the book, you have like 19 ways to market. And then
Yes.
you have like month number 1, and you kind of give like a daily thing.
Right.
I know for some people, they're going to hear 19 ways to market and they're going to shut down because it seems really overwhelming. So how doable is this plan that you've put in the back? And how much time per day should people expect to kind of put into their marketing, especially as they're getting started?
Yeah. And I look at it on a weekly basis. And with that calendar in the back, I tell the folks right up front, you can go through this every day, taking each day as the next step, or take it at your pace of what you're comfortable with, but build upon the previous days. And I mean, it's just like when we went through school. We didn't start off knowing calculus. We had to first start off learning, how to add and divide.
Well, we actually had to learn what our numbers were, and then we started from there, right?
So, yes.
Right.
And that's the whole concept for this book. And I wanted to keep it simple. I've got a few things in the back, those 19 different marketing tips, but that's what I go through in the book. So don't, for folks listening, don't just jump to the 19. Go through the book, because I lay out with actual examples I used myself. I mean, I tell you, if you're looking for a podcast and you're emailing the host, here's the email I used.
Right.
Make it your own, but keep it short and brief. And here's what I talk about.
Here's the kinds of things I put in this, so that the email host will say, the podcast host will say, oh, well, I might be interested in that. Right.
Yes, exactly. Right. And
Absolutely.
Then I talk about tips inside the book of, all right, where do I find out about podcasts as one example? Right. And I list different areas you can go to, podcastguest.com, podmatch.com, and others. Which ones are free? Which ones have a cost associated with them? Right. What is that cost? And I put it all in an easy chart format, so you can just go down through, okay, here's what it is. Here's the type of people that they tend to look for. And here's if it's free or cost, etc. It's all in the book.
Right.
Because I didn't want them having to spend time on doing the research. I've done it.
Right.
Just pick up the book and start to follow it a little at a time. You don't have to rush. But then when you're ready, then you can move on, just like we went from grade school to middle school to high school. You hear about folks spending money on ads on Amazon, Facebook, LinkedIn, and other places. To me, that's when you start to graduate, when you start to know more of these foundational items. Don't just try to jump over to putting ads out there.
Right, because if you put an ad out there and you don't even have a website yet, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yes.
If you put an ad out there and you don't have anything else for them to see or for them to come to, or for them, you're once again doing a disservice. If you're capturing emails, but you're not doing anything with them. I mean, there's all of the pieces that have to go into it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you want to make those sales. And what I tell the people to do is take the revenue from those sales, bank it. And when you're ready and you know enough and you want to venture into paid ads, now you
have some money. Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So the first thing I'm going to say, guys, is do run out and grab the book, because you will find some amazing tools that are going to be helpful. But for the show, Kevin, if we were going to just talk about maybe 3 things that you feel are the most important, where would you say someone should start?
Well, one of the things we spoke about just briefly is podcasting.
Yeah. I
So
think
that's
I personally, as both a host and a guest, I think podcasting has been really valuable to me.
and the other one's social media.
Yeah.
You definitely want to look at that. And I would say the third one right now, if I had to pick one and keep it very low cost, libraries.
Yeah.
I would start with my local library. And here's the interesting thing. And I found this out about my own in my area where I live. And I live in just south of Rochester, New York, a little town called Rush. But I tell everyone it's Rochester. There is 20 libraries within 30 miles of me. There is no one central point I can go to. I have to go to each individual library. Mm-hmm. And so that's okay. Get to know the librarian. Go there and see, do they have things like book clubs that are there? And just go sit in. Don't take and say, oh, I'm here, I got a book, blah, blah, blah. No, sit in, offer something of value. And then when you get enough knowledge, then you can take and approach them. For your librarian, get to know them. Get to understand what is their process for selection of books. And that gets into a whole nother area. Some people think, oh, I put it out on Amazon and I can put it on wide distribution and libraries will automatically pick it up. Well, Amazon just started allowing and moving into the library area. Ingram Spark is another distributor, and they have been known to distribute and have the catalog that libraries go to.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of libraries won't take a book that has been published only by Amazon, even if it's on wide distribution. So it depends a lot on the library system and what all their rules are, but Ingram Sparks they do take. And so you do have to know those things. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I talk about that in the book too. I went to my hometown library, which my hometown is Ilion, New York. That's about the center of New York State. And I approached them when I was doing the research for the book. And then when I had it published, I said, would you guys like a copy? And they said, yeah, send it down. And then they told me, okay, we're going to put it on our shelves. Next thing you know, I'm getting an email. Now, this was in May of that year. I'm getting an email in January of the next year stating my book was the #1 checked out book for that library for the whole year. And let me tell you, my hometown wanting to read the stories I wrote, that means more to me, Terry, than anything else.
I know. I think it's amazing sometimes, like, what does success mean to an author? And I know for me, I walked into a local bookstore with my granddaughter, who's little. She was 5 at the time, and she saw my book across, and she ran to it and she said, Gigi, it's your book. It's your book, right?
That's
what
it.
What more do I need?
Exactly.
There are certain things that are just like, oh yeah, that's it. I don't need another thing. Of course I want more. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about marketing. But yeah, there are certain things that just like make you swell.
Especially when it comes to your grandkids. And just a little side story, because it just happened recently. Whenever my grandkids came over to the house, and we have 6 of them, we would give them, treats and stuff. And a lot of times it was those Milano cookies with the chocolate in the middle. Well, my granddaughter, the oldest one, is 17. And they were over the house a few weeks ago. And I had some Milano cookies. So I took it out and she says, Grandpa, if my childhood was summed up in a cookie, this is it. Let me tell you that, grinning ear to ear, that meant more than anything else.
Absolutely. And that's so much the way it is with our books. And so this marketing gives us these opportunities to have those kinds of things happen. Because if you had not reached out to the library in your little hometown, they would have never known about your book. They wouldn't have put it on the shelves. People wouldn't be reading it, and you wouldn't have had that moment.
Oh, and let me tell you, that one book has given me so many moments. And this is another thing I talk about in the book is people should look towards book signing events. And a lot of times libraries will have them.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
went to my local library, or my hometown library, sorry, and did a book signing event there. And in the back of my first book, there was a picture of me in second grade standing up next to the teacher. And back then, when they took the class picture, it was the whole class in the picture.
Right.
So I'm standing there signing the books, and this older lady came up and she says, I'd like to get one of your books. I said, thank you. I appreciate that. And she says, but first, I hear you have a picture of you in second grade. And I said, yeah. And I went to the page and I said, here it is. That's me standing up next to the teacher. She points to the teacher and says, that's me.
That's me. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, I mean, the hugs just ensued.
Yes, I know. Those kinds of things are amazing. I think something else that people maybe can understand is libraries do author events, but so do a lot of other places.
Yes.
And you can kind of create your own meet the author event. Coffee shops love to have authors come in. Little wine shops, breweries, little microbreweries, those kinds of things, because they'll want you to come in, and then the people who are sitting there are buying a glass of wine, or they're, that kind of thing, as they sit and listen to you talk. And so I think too, a lot of authors, I think, kind of very narrowly limit to, well, I'm looking for a place that's about books. So bookstores, libraries, and it's like, no, you're looking for a place where people gather.
Yes. Yes. And, they always say, find your audience, but sometimes you have to expand out so that you can see how far your audience actually stretches.
Right. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I know here there's places where it's a restaurant, but they have, and it's a mom and pop restaurant, but they have a book place in the beginning of it and local books. I'll tell you another one that I've done, museums.
Yeah. And
in Cooperstown, New York, everyone knows it for the Baseball Hall of Fame, but they have the Farmers Museum, which has since been renamed, the Fenimore House, and other places. Well, I went there and they have a gift shop. And in the gift shop, they have a section for local authors. Yeah. My book is now sitting there. So.
Right. And I think that's the thing. One of the things that, even with podcasts and finding podcasts, is don't limit yourself. Don't say, well, it has to be a podcast about authors and books. Maybe it's a podcast about something your book is about.
Yes. And that was my third book. It was about things that are more spiritual in nature. And I found some podcasts online where the people were talking more about spiritual things.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm on their podcast.
Right. And I think that's something that you need to think about is like, where can you speak? Who can you speak to? Don't limit yourself, because yes, you're an author that's written this book, but there's more to you.
Yes.
And so like find those things and then find how can you make value for this group, this organization, this podcast, this whatever. Right. And if you can find a match, reach out.
Exactly. And Terry, inside the book, I go into things like we're talking about podcasts. What are the types of tools you might need? Right. I go into, like you've probably seen, I'm looking directly at you, but I'm looking into the camera on my PC. And that's something a lot of folks have to train themselves to do. I had to do that. They typically will look down at the screen. Right. Another thing, I typically wear glasses.
So do I. But not here, because then they glare and they look horrible, right?
Exactly. But I had on a podcast in England, and the guy was wearing his glasses, and it had, just like mine, had the reflection now. So I told him there's a simple technique. And he says, look, I've been trying this for 2 years, moving the lighting all around and all that.
Did you just tip him up?
do the following. Just tip them up.
Yeah. It
And
takes it away every time.
Yep. And he says, my God, I've been doing this for 2 years, and that's you solved it for me.
Yeah, you do. You just tip them up, and then the angle of the light is completely different. But
exactly.
And I think the other thing that I really liked, you had it in your book, I think more than once, where you said, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yes.
And it is something, sometimes I get nervous and I'll think, okay, I want to go maybe approach this local bookstore. And for some reason, I'm just in a weird mood. And I think, I don't know that I can go in there. And I turn it around and I remind myself, my book is not currently in this bookstore. If I go in and they say no, my book will still not be in this bookstore. Right. So nothing has changed.
Exactly.
But if they say yes, I now have my book in this bookstore. So you have to kind of go at it from the point of view of, you already are working on no. I mean, That's right. And so the only thing that can change is for the positive.
Absolutely. And I say that throughout the whole book.
Yeah.
It's a carryover from my corporate life, where I've had managers tell me, look, if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
And I've said it so many times that one day I was pondering, should I contact this person or shouldn't I? And I asked my wife, what do you think? Should I contact him or shouldn't I? And she repeated that to me. Yes, if you don't ask, the answer is no.
Right. And sometimes you almost need that from outside because you forget, you get in your own head and it's like, I don't know that I can do this. And then you realize, no, really, the answer is already no. Because Absolutely. You haven't asked, and now you have a chance of it that you might still get a no.
But yeah, okay, absolutely. And I've gotten no's.
I get no's all the time.
Gotten yeses.
Right. I think the other thing I'd like to bring up is I know that when I reach out to a podcast host, if I don't hear from them right away, in about 2 weeks, I reach out again.
Yes.
Because a no to me isn't a no until I've heard the word no.
Yes.
And the number of times that I have been contacted on my third try is astounding. And I think it's because the first time they never heard of me. The second time, it's kind of like, who is this? And the third time, it's like, I've been hearing from her a lot. Let me check out and see what this is.
Yep.
And so don't let silence make you think it's a no. It could be they're very busy.
Exactly. I'm getting a lot of hosts commenting back now. I'd love to have you on the show, but I'm booked until next year.
Yeah.
My response is great. Let's pick a date.
Right. And I think that's the other thing to remember is that your book is not like milk. It doesn't spoil. It doesn't have a date that says, okay, after this, the book is no good. And so you keep marketing that book. And so if someone can't have you on for a year and a half, great. Go on in a year and a half.
Right. As long as their podcast is still there, why not do it?
Absolutely.
And I mean, I've been wanting to get on this other person's podcast for a while. And this is what I did. I took a copy of my book and just sent a very nice note to her on the inside. It says, thank you for all the advice you've given me over the years via your podcast. Put it in the mail, sent it to her. Next thing you know, she's contacting me and say, I want you on my show.
Right. And it's that kind of thing. You reached out to me, and I do have a very long waiting list, but I also had someone cancel on me kind of last minute. Mm-hmm. And so it worked. The timing was beautiful. And it was like, this is exactly the kind of thing I would love to have someone come on and talk about. And so it was like, yeah, let's talk. Will this work for us? And, so.
And Terry, I used one of the techniques in the book. I call it podcast piggybacking. And I know Shane Vigent, and Shane was on your podcast, and I saw that. So I use Shane as my intro. I piggybacked off of him to contact you, and here we are.
Right.
And that's a technique that works very efficiently, but I take it beyond that. If you know authors and you listening to a podcast, oh, geez, I really like what that author is saying. Jot their name down, and it's very simple to do. you put their name on a search line, and then afterwards you put podcast guest.
And see
So
where
in
they
this
pop
case,
up.
and they pop up. So it would have been Shane Vigent, podcast guest. And now I get to see the podcast he's been on. And then I start to listen to some of those podcasts.
And you say, where do I fit? Oh, I could fit on this one. And then you contact them. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Bingo. And it's a
that.
very simple, easy technique. And I have a nice little chart in the back of the book talking to people through it. Oh, it's so super simple.
Right. And you can do the same thing for getting book reviews. If there are book bloggers out there and you want a review or those kinds of things, it's the same idea. Find those people who are already doing it and then see where you fit in to those.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, getting book reviews is getting harder and harder.
It is. Days. It is. It absolutely is.
So you do need to ask.
Yeah. So Kevin, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, talk with you about your writing or marketing in general, what's the best way for them to do that?
Go to my website, kevin-hall.com, and all my contact information is there. You can leave me a message. All the podcasts that I've been on are there. And here's another tip. When you post, if you have a website and you're posting the podcast, post the transcript also, link over to it, because that's where a lot of the AI engines will be searching out that kind of information. And if a question comes up and they've got that information from a podcast transcript that you run, you're going to be cited.
Oh,
so that's just another little tip.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's a new one for me. I'll be looking into that for sure. Well, guys, I will have all of this information in the show notes, so you'll be able to find Kevin. Definitely run out and grab his book, Book Marketing on a Budget. Once you've read it, do him a solid and get on Amazon and let them know what you thought of the book, because trying to get book reviews it's a crazy business.
Yes.
Kevin, I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, Terry, this has been a pleasure. And I love to share this information, especially with new authors, because I've heard it many times. I've spent all my money getting the book published. I got nothing left to market. How do I start?
Right. And this will definitely tell you. So thanks so much for being with me today, Kevin.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for listening to Online for Authors, where I, Terry M. Brown, author of character-driven fiction and host of the podcast, introduce readers to characters they'd love to invite to lunch. Tune in next Tuesday for another podcast episode.